episode 17 of New York City Bike Culture. Vince Rhino, yeah. So really happy to sit here. We're kind of lucky with the weather. It's a nice sunny day. We're sitting in the dark, but the snow is thawing, and I had to cancel an interview on Wednesday because the weather was just too bad and too cold. So really happy to be able to sit here today. I think we've got a lot of good stuff coming today.
Indeed.
Okay, you're promising some good stuff. Vince, he already said, kind of building up here, has kind of really mixed background with bikes. Has dabbled in a lot of different things. I think fixed gear, messenger, which is kind of very closely connected to road racing now. Other things. You were born and raised in New York City.
Yep.
You can tell us a little bit more about that in a second. As somebody who works at Baruch, I should have mentioned that he's also a Baruch College graduate, and we could talk. We don't have to talk about
Bearcats.
that. Go Bearcats! Yeah, they do have sports teams. That's true. And we'll talk about that. But tell us a little bit more about yourself, who you are. You're still a young guy, or you might not feel that way anymore, but I think you're still a young guy, and I think you're another one of those people who I look at and I always see kind of positive and smiling, and don't worry about that too much. And I just want to hear a little bit more about what drives you and what you like about bike riding, and kind of looking at it from the perspective of somebody who's been living in New York City all their life, right? So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
So when I first started, like I was saying before, my grandfather taught me how to ride a bike, and I remember I have like a vivid memory of like me riding around. I had this little like square. It was almost kind of like a home base kind of thing, and I was doing circles around there. And I remember I would like each day we would go out to the backyard, and him and his friend Pedro would like watch me. And I remember I built the confidence. I was like, "Brandon, I'm ready. Like take off the training wheels." And he took them off, and I was doing the little circles around the square, and I was like a little, I want to say it was like a red bike with like little like yellow wheels. Well, not a tricycle, or maybe is that considered a tricycle? But that was a bicycle because it had training wheels. And that kind of like got me into it. And then my dad would take us riding, me and my sister. We would do like some rides like here and there, not frequently, but like when it was like nice out, we would do like maybe like a lap or two in the park. And he had like this old like Iron Horse mountain bike. And then I want to say for like one of like my 8th birthday, my mom got me like a Mongoose mountain bike, like a blue and white one.
Yeah.
And that was like my pride and joy. It had like these tri-spoke wheels, like pegs. And I thought I was like the hottest kid on the block with it. I love that bike. And then we had like a tire shop that was like right next to my building, and I would always go down there and fill up my tires. Like the people were like super cool with me there. Auto repair tire shop, by the way, not a bike shop. It's now a bike shop now. It's now Larry's Freewheeling.
Oh, that's funny.
And then when I was involved in Boy Scouts, like my mom always tried to like keep me active. Like I was in, I did fencing, and I was in Boy Scouts. And then like later towards like
fencing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
I did fencing at the Peter Westbrook Foundation. Peter Westbrook was a fencer. He fenced in the Olympics, and I think he got a bronze or a silver medal. And then he's also went on to like teach a bunch of like future Olympians that went back and like taught the students as well. And I did fencing for a bit, but when I was started going to Boy Scouts, I was initially at Troop 520, which is by my house. Then I went to Troop 1, which is like on like 86th Street and like Broadway.
So all of this is in Manhattan.
All this is in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And then just to get to my to the meetings down on 86th Street, I just started riding my dad's old Iron Horse. And that was fun. But also, like, I remember when I was still in high school at the time, and I remember, like, this was, like, around, like, the whole, like, fixed gear, like, single speed, like, movement. Like, around, like, 2012. And I remember just, like, I didn't really go downtown a lot. Like, my whole, like, neighborhood was pretty much, like, uptown. Like, when I was, like, I went to middle school and high school at the same spot. So when I first started, it was, like, New Heights Academy Charter School. My mom had, like, entered me into this charter program, and I got accepted. And each year, so it started out as 5th and 9th grade. Each year they added a grade. So I was the first kid to go from 5th to 9th. I mean, from 5th to 12th for the whole 5 through 12 curriculum, whatever. And pretty much around that, like I literally see like a lot of bikes up in Washington Heights, like, you know, like you just like most like delivery guys. But towards like my senior year, my friend Joe, he was like really like into like that whole like kind of designer thing. He was like SoHo's like where it's at. I remember I would like come down here. And there's just an abundance of bikes like in the Lower East Side. Like, you see like all like these rinky-dink like old Raleighs or Peugeots, and I was like, I want one of those things so bad. And for I want to say it was my 17th birthday or my 18th birthday, my aunt got me a single-speed lagger fixie frame, and that was like my pride and joy. And that really kind of like kick-started like the whole like getting back into cycling. Like I
Yeah.
started, like even in the wintertime, like I started riding to high school. Like I stopped taking the train. I was like, I'm gonna ride my bike. I had like this deal with my gym teacher. If I came to school early, he'd let me leave it in the gym room instead of like locking it outside. So I was in school like all day, and I was like worried about getting stolen.
Yeah.
So that was really nice. And then from there, like it kind of just like grew like exponentially. Like I had this one friend Jesse who worked at a bike shop, and he kind of like got me into it a little bit more. Like he would go out and we would do like these like night rides, like in traffic throughout the city and stuff. And then I graduated high school, and then I went to Baruch. And when I was going to Baruch, I was still doing my Eagle Scout because I wasn't 18 yet. I was still like 17. So it was actually my 17th birthday because I was in college when I was 17. And I started riding to Baruch. I was just like, this is gonna be it. And then surely but surely, I was just like, I have all this free time because with Baruch, I would condense my schedule to 2 days. So I was just like, I'd be in school like all day, Tuesday and all day Thursday.
Yeah. It's like a super big day, and then
but it's like you just get out and get it done. And I was just like, coming from high school where I'm normally like used to being in school from like these hours, I'm just like, I can definitely do this.
Yeah.
And I remember for freshman year, I had like this one big break. It was just like maybe like a 4-hour break, and so I would like ride home. I would like literally like go to like my first period English class, ride home, then come back at like 2:30 or whatever for like my history course or whatever. And I just started riding more. And then as I would ride, Baruch is not too far from like Union Square, so that's where all like the messengers, like the big messenger enclave was. And
it's not anymore, is it?
Yeah, it kind of like died down.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot more people like they used to chill at like the Basket, which is like on like Lower Broadway, like 70s ish. Or actually no, it's off of Great Jones Place, like on 3rd, so like Broadway and like 3rd. Long story short was, I ran into my friend Gio and I asked him like, what are you doing for like work? And he was like, oh, I'm a bike messenger. And I was like, word, that's dope. I was just like, are they hiring? And he's like, well, like he was like, show me how it works. He had like this like special phone. It was like a Verizon phone, like super cheap, but like it wasn't even touchscreen. It was like everything, but it didn't have like a keypad. Everything was like with like the 3 buttons or whatnot.
Okay.
So so you had to like move the arrow keys over and like tap the middle key to like confirm. It was like super old school. It was almost like a walkie-talkie. That's most of it was like used for.
Yeah.
And he told me, come to 42nd Street, this is where my office is, and talk to my boss. I went the next day, talked to him. He was like, do you have any experience doing bike messenger? I was like, no, but I was like, I ride bikes. And he was like, okay, cool. Come here tomorrow. And I was a Boy Scout, so I had like a backpack, like an actual like camping frame, and that was what I was using to like carry like a lot of the stuff until like I saved up enough money to get like an actual messenger bag. And then slowly but surely, like I was doing that like throughout the winter, and I mean like that was like good like kind of like cross training. Not that I was like competing for anything, because I wasn't into road cycling yet.
But you were riding and you want to be fast, probably.
Exactly. Like I remember I did like my first loop of my lagger, and I was like, oh, I did it in like 18 miles. I did it in like 18 minutes. I'm like, yo, I'm so fast. Like this is like so fast. I mean now 18 minutes is like a leisure like stroll in the park. But I mean I was gassed after this ride, like after this effort. And I think I was riding like 47-17.
Yeah.
So I was like spinning. And
so the lap in Central Park is like, if you're fast, it's like 12, 13 minutes, 14, something like that.
Yeah, if you're wrapping out like 13-minute, low 13-minute laps. I think like the fastest lap I think was like that, like back in the day, it was like, I think it was like Scott Savory has like the KOM for like the fastest loop.
Okay.
But this is all like pre like Strava, where people use like record on their phones, and the GPS was like all over the place.
Yeah.
So a lot of those Strava segments are kind of suspect, but people weren't even using power meters back then. Like that just became a thing like more recently, you know?
You don't know how they happen, those Stravas, like those
you look at these and this guy's flying up here, but it's like no watts, and it's just like the record from like 2013. It's just like, no, that's GPS.
Yeah, and the GPS file goes like all over the road, kind of. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's some of that. So you're like, your progression then, like from learning how to ride in the backyard, which was like, you know, I think pretty cool experience. I think everybody has a little slightly different version of that. And then like you were already involved in Central Park before then, kind of as a kid, or was that more of a your parents want to keep you in the backyard? But then you mentioned then going down here, East Village, like SoHo, and riding around at night and all that. That's a big step.
Yeah, the time gap is crazy. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Fully in. So yeah, when I was actually prior to going to New Heights, I went to a private school called it was initially called the Modern School, which my dad had went to, and then it turned into like Daily Day Academy, and it was like mostly it was like African American, a small private school, and pretty much my principal, Judy Phillips, she was the one that kind of like wanted us to do something because she was like, I have all these kids like up in Harlem, like, and I'm teaching, and she was like, I want them to be involved in like other extracurricular activities that aren't basketball. She's like, everybody wants to be a basketball player, everybody wants to be a football player.
Yeah.
But she's just like, I
I
want
assume
more.
you had to try that out too, or?
I had a little run-in with like basketball like in high school, but that didn't really work out too well. I tried for it out for the varsity team, I didn't make it, and then I kind of like found the bike, and it all like took off from there.
Totally. Yeah.
But every Wednesday, she would charter a bus for us to go out to casino, to the velodrome.
Oh wow.
And we would do like the Star Trek program. We were part of that. And I remember like we would go out there on Wednesday and train and like learn about like the bikes and how fixed-gear bikes work, and so on and so forth. He's still around actually, and actually I saw him at one of the Ford Bennett Field races like a few years ago, and honestly like I took a photo and it like warmed my heart because he still recognized me and everything.
Yeah.
And he was the person that gave me my first cycling kit, Delroy Walters.
Yeah. Okay.
And they actually have the Delroy.
Yeah.
They have there's a Delroy Cup out in Casino named after him.
Okay.
But he gave me my first pair of my first kit. It was like a CRCA kit. I still have it, I think. It was the old school one. Yeah. It was like yellow CRCA, and then it had like the block blue with like white lettering. And then they gave me like some like zombie shorts, and I kept them like. And when I got back into fixed gear riding like later on, like I still used the bib shorts. I was like, oh yeah, these have padding. Like I could probably still use them, but I mean like they were more so like spin shorts than actually like cycling shorts.
Yeah.
You know, like the cameos was like pretty much like a piece of fabric, and that was it. You know, it was just like it wasn't spandex, but it was like cloth. And that's kind of how like I got like into like competing, but I didn't really follow through that with that because after I graduated, like I stopped going to casino. Like I did like that. They had like a race at like the end of like the season. Yeah. I did a ride. I got like a little trophy. I came like second or third place.
Yeah.
And I didn't really ride that much like throughout my middle life. Like I would do like the mountain bike rides like in Central Park.
That school experience at casino, that was high school?
No, that was elementary school.
Oh wow.
So that was like that was before 5th grade.
Wow, okay.
I was like 4th, 3rd grade.
Well, I mean, if you're that age and you're not getting bussed out there, I mean, how are you going to get there, right? I mean, you could take a 2-hour subway trip or something like that.
Some kids do it. Some kids are like really committed.
Yeah, but I mean, even if you get into it, then like if you're in Harlem and you need to get all the way over there, that's a long way. I mean, even if you like it, right? I mean,
definitely
without support and at that age.
And then taking the 7 train and getting
the
bus.
that program still exists at the school? Yeah. Okay, so they still have the kids going out there. That's awesome. Yeah.
But yeah, my dad would take us like Central Park and we'd do some like laps there. But again, nothing like hardcore, just like super leisure riding. Like we'd stop like every like 20 minutes to like catch our breath, like get some like water, you know. I don't even think we would do like a full lap. Might have like even like cut it short and did like a little lower loop kind of thing. But it was something to do and I was thankful for it. But I would say like my real first like taste of like actual like competition when I was just like I kind of had like a drive for it, wasn't necessarily like an extracurricular activity, was when I became a messenger. Okay. And they started doing like those unsanctioned races like alley cats. Like I remember I got like my first like taste of that. Yeah. And all my friends were like pretty good like alley cats. Like, they would always like consistently win. And I was just like, I ride with these guys. Like I can definitely keep up. And I remember my when I first started, I had like platform pedals and like straps. And so like that's not really like the best setup for like riding like alley cats. Like a lot more like the really good guys, like they'll do like SPD pleats just to be a little bit more clipped in and in control. Okay. Yeah. You're just a little bit more efficient. You can get around it a little bit more easier. Yeah. So
like the mountain bike style for those who are not that familiar, I'm assuming now.
Yeah. And pretty much I did like my first alley cat, and I did pretty horrible, honestly. Like I did like Monster Track the first year, which is like a big alley cat. I'm not too familiar with that.
I've heard of the name. Yeah.
But I have like these messengers from like all over. Like I'm talking about from like San Francisco, like Oakland, like Philly, Chicago. They all come into New York for Monster Track. It's like a whole like big thing. They have like a prom during like the week of. Where people like go out and get like hammered at the bars. And they all meet up like to manifest. But I did Monster Track my first year. I didn't do too hot. And then the second year I did it, I think I came in like 17th out of like 100 and like something people, 100 plus people.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was like 3 manifests, and I was able to get like the second. I was able to get the second manifest.
You want to explain to people real quick what a manifest is for those who are not familiar with the culture? Because I know enough about it to know that, but I think you can explain it better than I can.
Oh, okay. So how it works is basically with these alley cats, they basically have a bunch of different checkpoints around the city, and it's supposed to basically simulate a regular workday for messengers. Yeah. Basically with the manifest, you have these different locations, and sometimes depending on like who's throwing the event, like you might have to hit them all like in sequential order, or sometimes it's kind of just like you have to go to all these locations and you route yourself. Yeah. Right. We just see who has the best route and who gets like each location the fastest. And then pretty much at each of these different locations, you have like a checkpoint worker, and they'll sign it.
Kind of basically got a piece of paper, right, that has like a list of locations,
addresses. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
And they have checkpoint workers at those addresses, and you have to like rush to those addresses, like you're making a drop off if this is an actual work day, and then get the signature, which is what you get when you drop off the package to the recipient. Pretty much I did monster track, and I got like 17th, and I was like, damn, this is pretty fun. And then like a lot of my friends, they would also do alley cats as well. They set up racing at the track and casino.
Yeah.
They would say we want something a little bit more like uniform, like where we can actually like race in like a more like a safe space kind of thing. And don't get me wrong, like there's an added risk with like alley cats, but I mean I feel like that's why half the people do it. The risk.
Yeah.
It's like you're like rubbing elbows with like taxis and stuff.
Well, and I was going to say you're kind of giving yourself a hard time there for not doing so well in the beginning, and then placing 17th is a really good result. Considering like, I think you need to know the city, and you need to know addresses, and you also need to know how to ride the city, right? It's more than just being fast. It's really much more of a skills and knowledge of the streets kind of competition too, right? I mean, even though I'm sure that the guys who are placing the front are fast, like. But in a, they might not do as well in the Central Park race, but most Central Park, like CSCA or regular road races, would not beat them in an alley cat. So, it's that kind of, it's a very different, not very different, but it's a different skill set to some extent, right?
Exactly. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like you had people that weren't messengers that would come out to these events and compete. But the little caveat was that messengers usually always had a sleight of hand because a lot of these spots would be like messenger centers where messengers would actually go to drop off packages. And some of the times, like they wouldn't actually write like a physical address. Like, so like how some places like in New York City you have like a physical like actual like street address, but some places like in like Midtown, like One Penn Plaza, like that doesn't have like an actual physical address. It's like known as One Penn Plaza.
You just know.
You just know. And so some of those, it's like you didn't know where that was, like you just literally be wasting time because you're like, where's One Penn Plaza? I don't know where that is.
Which I assume you just start following people.
Exactly, but it's just like sometimes people don't know where they're going. So it's just like it's a crapshoot. It's just like I can follow this guy who I think might know where he's going, or I could just go on my own and try and like figure it out, kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm gonna let you eat a bite or two. So I think hopefully I'm gonna have other guests too that will allow me to focus a little bit more on kind of the messenger culture and those alley cat races, and always a little bit of when you come from the road cycling where everything has to be sanctioned and everything is regulated. This is like the crazy chaos kind of version of bike riding in the city. But I think and I think there's a reason why a lot of people come to New York City, because this is the place still where you can ride a bike and you have so many streets and it's so busy, and it's a very, I think everybody who does ride a bike and feels comfortable doing that in the city feels very alive kind of doing that, and it's a very like, because I think your senses need to be really sharp all the time, and I think that makes you just feel like, I don't know, it's hard to describe the feeling. It's very alert kind of feeling and very alive that you feel like, because your systems are kind of going always and paying attention. In addition to like obviously exercising because you're bike riding, but it's a little bit even more. I think it's very similar to being in a bike race, like that's sanctioned, but you're probably paying even more attention than you are like paying in the middle of a peloton, which is kind of funny.
It's really wild. A lot of the people in the messenger community like hate this movie, but a lot of people like the OGs that I know were like actually like in there, or they like went to them for feedback to actually produce this. But that movie Premium Rush, everybody that kind of like encapsulates it in a very like cliche way, but that's kind of like really like what it is, where you have like you're delivering packages and you're literally just like routing, and like you see like a scenario and it's just like I have these 3 ways to get through traffic. I can either go this way, get cut off by the bus. I can either like try and shimmy through the jaywalk to these pedestrians, or so on and so forth. But honestly, like as simple as that job is, I feel like that's honestly probably like one of the hardest jobs like in the world, in the sense that it's just so physically demanding.
It is.
Like if you take it seriously, like you can definitely make a solid living if you're like out there like hustling and stuff like that. But it's hard work, like being out there like 365, like in conditions like this, in like sub-freezing conditions, and it's like you got like 40 pounds on your back, and it's like you have like 7 different places to go by 3 o'clock, and it's just like all like on the deadline. I feel like that whole like messenger sense of urgency kind of like instilled a really good work ethic in me, because I was like super punctual, and I was just like, I felt it was a representation of myself. Like when I showed up late with the package, like I was the one that was taking the blame, even though I was just like the messenger. It's like, don't shoot the messenger. But I felt like a personal like responsibility because I was like entrusted to do this task.
You get like a little mission, right?
Exactly. And it's just like I kind of gotta like figure out, okay, I gotta go to this place first. I'm gonna hit this place, and then from Midtown East, I'm gonna go to SoHo, and then from SoHo, I'm gonna go to like the Bowery, and so on and so forth. And you kind of pretty much plan out your route. And then it's just like stuff gets like mixed up, because it's just like you'll get like 7 jobs, and you might have like another job that'll come up like down the way. You might have to backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
So like just being on the ball on the swivel is what I really liked or admired about the job. And also I was riding my bike, so I was like, I'm making money from riding my bike. Like this is great. Like
totally.
Come on.
Yeah, but I think like you said, like you're learning like, you know, accountability, learning being like managing your time, you're learning kind of navigating like and juggling different kind of, you know, responsibilities, like working on several tasks at the same time and kind of prioritizing. And I think those are all skills you need in the real world too. Like, I mean, it is the real world. Like you need other jobs too, is what I should say. So I think that a lot of those skills would really translate to a lot of other jobs, I would imagine. So,
and it was really helpful too, in the sense that I'm like so thankful for my time as a messenger because it allowed me to meet so many great people. In the sense that like some buildings you have to go into like a messenger center where it's like you have to kind of go into like the back or service entrance, so you don't really.
You have to know that there's a different entrance for the messengers, yeah.
Right, but sometimes like when you're leaving, it's like you go in the elevator. It's just like you're like there's like a CEO of like whatever company is like in the elevator with you, and it's just like here you are like. Just like in your regular like street attire, and it's like the CEO that's worth like whatever, you know, like manages like so many different people, and it's just like the conversations that you have with the people. It's just like I feel like there's like a very like misconstrued conception about like messengers as just like they're like the like subpar workers, or they're kind of like at the bottom of the bucket. But a lot of these people like are super hard workers, and they're just doing it just because like it's like something that's attainable and that's like accessible. Or it's like you don't really need a lot. You just need like a backpack and a bike, and just like the willpower to be out there and go out there and do it.
Which is, like you said, super hard. I think New York City has all kinds of weather, as we're seeing this winter, which is a little tougher maybe than some others, but like in terms of snowfall. But I mean, what are you going to do if you need to, you know? I think there's other places where messaging might be a little bit easier on you. But then, I mean, I think you touched on a couple things. You really get behind a few doors that are close to other people, which is kind of cool. You get to see like a few buildings and even companies or places from the inside that you wouldn't get access to. So you really get to experience New York City kind of behind the, you know, closed doors or doors that are closed for most people. So that's pretty cool. And then the other thing, and we can talk more about that too, but the other thing that I want to pick up a little bit is maybe that's just my impression, it's a very intense culture kind of, in that like, well, you're out there on the street all the time and thank you. And you're out there on the street all the time and you're really working your butt off in all kinds of weather. It's kind of unpredictable because you don't know how many jobs are going to be there all the time, right? And 1 week might be super busy, next week maybe slow, and you don't know what kind of jobs you're going to get and all that. And I think is that just my impression, or I mean, it's also you need to be physically fit, and all that can be pretty demanding, and they took probably quick burnout.
Definitely, especially
you see a lot of turnover in it because a lot of people try and they're like, damn, this is tough. Like, you know, I can't keep this up, or after 5-6 years, you're like, you know, this is a lot. Like, maybe I should look for something different. Or how do you see it? Because you're not in it anymore either. But we can talk more about it as well. But tell us a little bit from your perspective. What do you see?
It's a very perplexed way to like look about it, because like you have like I don't know, the messengers seem like, oh, messengers or anybody like on a bike that's delivering something. But there's like there's almost like a subculture to it where it's just like you have messengers that deliver like paper and package parcels, like envelopes and like lawyer briefs and stuff like that. And then you also have like fashion like messengers that deliver like garment bags like you get from fashion companies. Yeah. Then you also have like food delivery people and stuff like that. And so like the stuff that we're carrying is a little bit different. But
will you specialize in something? Because I have a friend who is, just getting more context for other people, and you can eat another bite of your burger. I have a friend who lives in DC who worked as a messenger, I think still works as a messenger, and like if you get like a certain government clearance, and you can do a lot of those kind of, like you mentioned, like the lawyer, like the legal documents that you know but you have to have a certain clearance even to just transport them in DC from like, you know, one office to the other, or from like whatever the capital to somewhere else. I don't know what it is, and if you specialize in that, you get more money because you know you're more trustworthy. It's a higher kind of responsibility kind of job, and I would imagine like you said, the fashion industry or the legal jobs pay more in theory.
It honestly depends on like the size and like where it's going, like how far it's going, like how fast it needs to be there, should I say. It all kind of depends, but in the sense that like a lot of like the I feel like what changed a lot was the app base. Like a lot of like companies like went app based. You have like apps like Caviar, like Uber Eats and stuff like that. When Uber first came out, Uber was like a messenger place where you could like send anything, like whether it be food, like you want somebody to pick up like a burger from the store, or if you needed like a garment bag like delivered, you kind of like do whatever. But now I feel like Uber is more so oriented towards just food.
Yeah.
But there's like a big differentiation in between that, and I feel like that a lot of the messengers more so are like, I'm riding my bike like super hard and like into like punk rock and kind of like stuff like that. I mean, everybody's different, but I feel like the traditional thing is like punk rock, like super tight jeans, you know, like non-conformist, like, you know, like you have like crazy hair, like all like piercings and tattoos. And I mean, definitely, don't get me wrong, there's messengers out there that definitely like fit that description and they go out and party hard. But I mean, that was never me. I was kind of just like, I'm out here because this is like great exercise, you know. I'm getting paid to ride my bike to the city, and like I honestly, like, I went to school like uptown in Washington Heights. So, like I told you, I started going to SoHo maybe when I was like in like 12th grade, but just SoHo. So being able to like kind of like explore the entire city was kind of just like, wow, like I have like the freedom to kind of do whatever. Like I'm my own boss, but I have these set of tasks I need to get done. So it's kind of just like managing that and then being able to also just like explore and do whatever I kind of wanted as well.
Right. Because you can take on as many jobs as you want to, kind of, right? Because you can reject a job and this. I mean,
it depends on what company you work for, but like if you work for like one of those app-based companies, you can kind of reject a job. But I work for like a traditional messenger company, so I had a dispatcher like in the office, and as the work came in, he would just dispatch it to us like on our phones. So he would kind of like know where you are more or less.
Yeah, direct you a little bit.
Yeah, kind of like direct you, like, okay, like I know you're in Midtown and I have a package that's like in Midtown East, so I need you to shoot over East, grab this, because it's also going to the World Trade Center where you're dropping off, kind of thing. So that sounds like that world has changed, and we're kind of really getting into like, and I'm sure again I can talk about this with other guests later too, with like about more in depth about the messenger culture, but very closely tied to that. And you already said there's kind of the reputation of the messenger people, and I think the tattoos and the super intense kind of lifestyle, like partying maybe a little bit. And I think, like you said, I think there's a lot of people come into it for a lot of different reasons, right? Though I think that those are the images that stick with people, and it has a kind of tough reputation because of that, maybe intense reputation because of that too. Right. And it is a pretty intense lifestyle in some ways, because you, like you said, you're out there and you're moving around the city, and with that comes a certain risk too. So maybe a couple of things. You said you weren't that kind of stereotypical kind of messenger. Yeah, I mean, like,
but it's a pretty diverse scene, or are you like, if you're too clean cut and you come in there, like you mentioned, that was pretty accepting, or was a problem?
Because they have this other company where it's like more like the clean cut kind of people go, where it's like urban stems and they're delivering flowers. Like they specifically only deliver flowers. And like a lot of like my homies work there, and they're like just like super chill. Like they don't do like a lot of partying. They smoke weed, and that's kind of about it, you know. Like they do some like the races and stuff like that. But
which is legal now anyway, so
I had lapsed on your last question, but to answer your question before about the burnout. Some people, if you're doing it smart, what they do is that they'll work for like a messenger company during the day, and then for the afternoon they'll get on like a delivery based like app company, because you get tips and stuff like that. With the more so like messenger like paper stuff, you don't really get tips. You just get paid per job kind of thing. So it's just like whatever the rate is, that's what you get paid. There's no like extra or added. So some people double dip, and that's usually when you see like a lot of burnout. But if you're smart, like a lot of people, what they do is like they'll work during the winter, and then when the summer, when everything slows down, because the summertime a lot more people are like more out in the open. Or at least pre-COVID. People were just like, oh, like I don't need this package like delivery. Like I can go do it myself. Like it's like summer hours. Like I'm gonna go walk in there instead of like calling this messenger.
Nice. Yeah, exactly.
So what a lot of people do is they'll go somewhere else, and they'll like kind of like give their body like a rest during like those warmer months. Kind of, they'll still be out there, but the work is not as like consistent, so they're not working as hard, so they kind of like relax a little bit more in the summer. And in the winter, that's usually where it picks up, because nobody wants to go out there and deliver it. They're just like, I'm gonna pay somebody to do it, and that's where it kind of like booms. So you see like Fashion Week, and like around Christmas, that's when like the volume starts to just like substantially increase.
Yeah, totally. Like you say, like you're double dipping, but it sounds like you're just working more when you're doing like traditional messenger service in the morning, and then the food delivery in the afternoon. That just sounds like you're making it a super hard long work day, and then that's how you make it happen. Then you can work a few hours over the summer because it evens out for the year or something like that. Or
but I also say double dipping because I also know some people that would, while they're working at like regular messenger jobs, they'd have an app going, so they would do their regular messenger work, but they'd also be picking up food in between.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So double dipping.
Totally get it. Yeah.
Because sometimes you have to be two places at once, you know, like one. Like, everyone's just like they're picking up food. They need to go to like the east side, and then it's just like your package is just straight down Broadway, like all the way like on like Tribeca, like on like the west side.
Yeah.
So you're just kind of like double dipping in that sense. You kind of have two places at once.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay, so that makes sense. But and from what I've heard, I mean, New York City's expensive, so most people would be like, can you make a living with that? And you were a college student in high school, so for you was a nice bonus. You can maybe contribute to or pay for part of college or use the money for something else. So But and I know there's people making a full-time living off that, and it's possible. Yeah.
You just have to be out there consistently in the worst conditions.
Yeah. Right.
But shout out to Baruch Public Colleges, saved me.
Yeah.
I'm like so thankful for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we were just. Yeah, go ahead.
So a lot of the money that I was going for was mostly just pocket change for me. It's like, and I honestly, like, as I started working more, a lot of it, like, as my passion for bikes kind of grew, a lot of that money that was being saved was just pretty much going to bike parks and like saving up like a nicer bike. And I remember I had bought my first like road bike off my friend Xavier. It was like a giant TCR. I want to say like 2011. It had like 10-speed Altegra.
Yeah.
It was like those giant TCR frames were like super duper stiff.
Yeah.
Like that aluminum, like you could hear it rattle like when you're coming off a curb and everything. But
oh, was it aluminum?
It was aluminum.
Okay.
Yeah.
It
was aluminum TCR. But I love that thing. That kind of like got me like into riding. I was just like having a road bike with gears. Because I mean, I would go out, but I would go out on my single speed. So you're kind of like limited into like how far you can go at the type of terrain.
So that was what kind of made you okay? Maybe I should get into a road bike because like because when you're always on like kind of smallish gear, then how far are you going to go on that thing? Yeah. Okay. So and then you invested. This is you're in college now or?
Yeah, I was in college.
Okay. Yeah. And you're like okay, messenger life, all that. You kind of backpedal one more time. Ironically, we'll talk about the fixed gear stuff. You were mentioning like 2010, 2012 was kind of the height of the boom, if you will. Or I mean,
that's why
people are always like, "Oh, road is dead." And you like actually think fixie's dead, kind of a little bit, but maybe that's wrong because in a place like New York City is probably never dead. It's very much alive in a lot of ways, but. I remember I was in Arizona at the time, and they had like a fixture company, a couple of fixture companies there, and they were, my impression, these were doing pretty well and like selling all over the place, and I think that was something that was pretty attractive to a lot of teenagers, people who were younger at that time, and I think it's probably still there, but it seems like the death of Red Hook is maybe a little bit indicative of that too, or maybe whatever, maybe it's going to get revived, but so I think those were that was the heyday of like the fixie movement to some extent, and I don't know where it's now, you probably know that better, but you were kind of riding that wave a little bit too, or?
Yeah, so basically that's kind of like what kind of like sparked my interest. Like I was sick of all like these like old school like road bike conversions, people like riding them as like single speed bikes. Mm-hmm. But just to go back to your thing about Arizona, that's actually where I got my second like bike that kind of like changed my life. The state bicycle.
State or heavy pedal? Those are both there. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
It was the state bicycle. Super awesome customer service. Like I got the frame off of like some messenger guy, Shardy, who actually like, we used to work together at my last company. And he sold me the frame. And pretty much like I had put my old parts on it, and that was just like it was like an aluminum frame. I had like a steel frame before, and this had a carbon fiber before. So it was definitely like a step up from what I was riding. And I was like, this thing is awesome. But yeah, the fixed gear boom definitely was like I saw it like popping off in like 2010, 2012. But I didn't really like immerse myself into it until I was like in college. Yeah. And even then, like it took me a while to like start like competing and like getting into racing in that aspect. Because I was just like, this is crazy. I was just like, people are like running lights and like running reds and like killing peds. I was just like, this is nuts.
Yeah. Right.
But something about it, you know, all your friends are doing it. You're just like, all right, fuck it, like I'll do it too. Excuse my language.
That's okay. We're not censored, I don't think. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And I just kind of like got me into it. And then a lot of my friends who kind of got tired with that the fixed gear kind of scene, because a lot of people were just like, oh, like Monster Track is rigged. Like the same people win like every year. Like this is all BS.
Okay, interesting.
And there's some other conspiracy. That's a conversation for another time.
Yeah, that sounds like something that would be a good story. Yeah.
Yeah, bring another messenger in, like somebody that's like knows what they're talking about.
Talk about
Monster Track back in the day and like the whole like conspiracy. And like with like Alfred Bobet and like all that. Like,
I've heard the names. Yeah. Okay, but I haven't heard the conspiracy theories, so I think I need to do some deep dive on some old forums or something.
Yeah. I'm honestly, it's not hard to find. Go on like this year NYC and type in like Monster Track, you'll see like so much.
Okay. Yeah.
And they started actually. I remember some of my friends, they called themselves PPR, Paragene Performance Racing. Okay. After like the bird, like the Paragene Falcon, the fastest bird on the planet. Yeah. And I was like, damn, these guys are so hardcore. Like, they're out there doing it. And I remember they would put, like, time trial bars on their track bikes. Yeah. And they'd, like, pace line out to Montauk. Okay. And I'm like, yo, these guys are legit. And I remember, this is kind of, and I'm just segueing into, like, what kind of, like, got me into road racing.
Right.
I remember it was Grand's Tomb. I want to say maybe, like, I forget what year, like 2017. But it was that year that was, like, it was stupid cold, like,
it's
3 years.
Grand's Tomb is, like, the kind of season kickoff crit in New York City. It's, like, one of the few crits in the city. I mean, have to think about it. It's like technically probably like the only like freestanding card that isn't a series that is like actually in the city. Orchard Beach is technically in the city too, right? That's in the Bronx. Yeah. So, but anyway, so there's a couple. It's been traditionally been in March. 2020 was supposed to be the summer, and everybody's getting excited for it because usually it's in March and there's like a super crazy cold breeze coming off like the Hudson River, and it's around freezing, or there's snow maybe on the ground, and it's miserable. Like you're miserable before, you're miserable right after. You're okay during, but if you're spectating, you're like half an hour and you're like, all right, where's the coffee shop? I gotta go inside.
I need to get out of here. Yeah, this is not fun.
Yeah. It's a great race, though, I should say.
It is.
It's a fun course. Yeah. Anyway.
And my two friends, David and Jurgen, they both.
I was gonna say, I know that I actually know what you're talking about, but yeah, okay, I remember them. I think they moved to LA or something like that.
Yeah, actually, David's back in New York. Actually, we're like homies, like really close friends. We actually worked together, or used to work together at a bike shop, Bicycles NYC.
Yeah. But anyway, so they got you into it because of what they started doing, and you were like, this is cool.
Yeah, like those guys were like the premier kind of like. Premier guys like the Alley Cat scene, like they were like pretty much like the young guys that were kind of like around my age group that were like kicking all the OGs' asses and stuff like that. Like David was like super duper like consistent with like his like he would go to a race and he's like guaranteed to like totally kind of thing.
Okay.
And I remember I went to go watch him at Grand's Tomb, and I had signed up for my my CRCA license, but I never like got I had signed up for a road racing license, but I knew CRCA, and I was like, I have a bike. But I didn't sign up for Grand's Tomb, and I didn't even race that entire season. Like I signed up for the license, but I never did it like any race. Yeah. And then my friend David and Jorgen, they both did super well in Grand's Tomb, and I was like, damn, like these guys are crushing it. And I was just like, I know that like I'm not too far behind them. Like I should just be out there doing this too.
Yeah.
And then slowly but surely, like I just started like going out there and riding more. Like I just changed my palette from like riding in Central Park. I started doing like River Road and stuff like that. And that's where I met like Antonio, who moved to Miami, but he was from Foundation.
Okay.
And he was like, oh yeah, you could like
Munoz.
Munoz. Yeah. He was like, oh, like try and get on Foundation. And I had like a stint with them, but that didn't end up working out. And I ran into some TBD guys, which were like super cool, and they were like just telling me like what
so you're kind of like describing this, and like as you're riding, you meet people here and there. The community kind of it's easy to connect really. Like if you're chatting a little bit, people are willing to chat usually, and your rider who's unattached at that point, you kind of get into. Usually people are have open arms. With your experience at least,
Right. And I ran into a few people like on the road, and I mean I've had like a few experiences with people who were like, yo, like I was of course when you first start, like you don't know what wheel sucking is. So you just start like riding with random people. You're just like they're riding fast. I want to ride fast. I want to push myself. But little did I know that's not really like proper etiquette when you're riding bikes.
There's always a lot of people who are like etiquette here, etiquette there, and then there's a few things that I think it's important to have a conversation at that moment maybe, and like tell the person like what the. If you don't want them to be riding a wheel, have a good conversation with them. Maybe don't yell at them, but like
or just ask.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So anyway, so you kind of TBD talked to a few guys. There's another team in New York City. Foundation's there too. Another team. We already had one of the leaders there, Rick Wolf here. TBD.
Shout out Rick.
Lucia Deng was here, who's on TBD, and hopefully there will be more people from the team. But anyway, so right now you're riding for GF Capital. How did that happen? Which is another CSCA sub team. Yeah.
So I used to work at a bike shop in Chelsea called Zen Bikes, and my boy Chris, who's on this team, Chris Ballard, he's been on this team since before it was even GF Capital, back when it was like Sanchez. Like back in the day, like Cycle Life or whatever, and pretty much like him and I would go out riding. And I remember he was like the rep for Cyclone, which is like the distributor of Action, or whatever. And he would come into my bike shop and he was like, "Oh, let's go fucking ride in the morning." And I was like, "I'm gonna drop this guy, like no problem." I was like, "I am the shit. I am so fast." And I went out there and Chris like destroyed me. And then we started riding together, and he was telling me like, oh, like these new guys, like my team's kind of like low key kind of thing, but there's just some new guys. But he was like, oh, some new guys, and I was like, oh, like maybe like potentially like my age. He was like, no, they're much older. And so I had just first started racing. Chris was like a big supporter of mine.
So this is you in college?
Yes, just in college. College. And I did my first road race. I was unattached. I was kind of representing the bike shops and bikes, but unofficially. And Chris was out there like on the finish line. And my first actual sanctioned road race was Grand's Tomb, and I got third place in Cat 5. And I was just like, wow, this is amazing.
That's a good result.
Yeah. First road race ever. I was like on my specialized delay. I was feeling dialed. I was just like, this is it. especially after watching my boys win it, like podium like the previous year, I was like, I got this in the bag.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like,
I don't think you got to finish that story, but the previous year when it was super cold, we were spectating, and you saw who podium, David or
both of them. David podiumed in his field in like the 4s, and I think Jurgen podiumed in the 3-4. Okay. And I think it was like Joe Amon, and then Joe Amon got first. Joe Amon was like on fire that season. That was the season he won like everything. He was like he won like the Lucarelli Castelli jersey. He was just doing everything. And I think Olaf was also on that podium. It was like Jurgen, Olaf, and Joe. And I was just like, I gotta be be on there. And then sure enough,
So these are people you are all kind of met through riding casually or around the city or whatever, in the park, on River Road or 9W. Yeah,
precisely. And I just saw them, and then the following year I was like, I gotta go out there and do it. And like prior to that, I was like training like super hard. Like I wanted to get like an NYCC, and I was doing like some like their early morning rides, like James Gilbert.
And they're kind of up there in the north end of the city, so that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, so we took a little break, but we're back. So Grants 2 year, what's your kind of the people you knew do really well the previous year, and then the next year you actually podiumed yourself in a Cat 5 race, and that was your first race.
First race ever.
That must have felt pretty sweet, or how did you feel across the finish after? Was it more like, crap, I wish I would have won like people did before? Or was it more like, this is awesome and this is fun? And,
it was honestly probably
despite it being like freezing cold again.
Like, this is one of your later questions, but honestly, like it was probably one of the best moments of like my cycling career. Because my girlfriend at the time was there. She brought her friend from college who I knew. My parents were there.
Oh, you had a whole cheer squad.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And I didn't know where they were.
Yeah.
So like I was kind of just like, I knew that they were going to be there. Like I told my mom, like race starts at this time. Then when I came to the finish, she was like right there at the finish. And I kissed my girlfriend. And I gave like my boy Chris a hug. And like it was super nice.
Yeah.
I didn't crash, and that's what I was like worried about too.
Yeah. Those are big fields usually too. And early the season people are nervous. And
it's kind of bad too. Everybody's just like all sketched. Like they don't know how to ride in a pack. It's just like brake check.
Yeah. Thank you.
And that was great. And then so pretty much like I was like on fire, and I was just like, I'm gonna start doing more races, and I started doing like Prospect Park races, and I got like second on like one of them. I came in like second with this guy, Gabriel Broom, who rides for E2 Value. He's pretty strong.
He's another young gun who is really strong, and I hope I get him on in front of the camera sometime. Yeah, absolutely.
Sure enough, when I went to Prospect Park, that's where a lot of the guys that had joined the team that year lived in, and that's where the races they did were in Prospect Park. So it's like my friend Brett Broadwater, Harry Boogden, and Justin Parker. They were like the Brooklyn crew, like the new guys. And I remember I was just like, I went up to them, I was like, hey, I know your friend Chris, and like we started talking. I was like, this is a great vibe. And then I messaged Chris. I was like, how do I join the team? And then he reached out to our team director Bob, who's a sweetheart. And then Bob was just like, yeah, please, open arms.
Awesome.
And he had like a bunch of like old kit, and Bob lives like 2 blocks from me. So I went down the block, picked up the kit, and I was like kitted up, and I was like, this is amazing. Like I have a full like spandex kit now. I'm on a team, and I'm like, this is like legit.
So this was 2018, 19? No, before.
This is
17, 18, something like that, right?
Yeah, this is like 2017, 2018.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, all right, excellent. So, 3 years ago now, that was GF Capital, and that's how you got on there.
Yeah, that's how I got on GF Capital through Chris, and then just meeting those guys at Prospect and vibing really well with that.
Yeah.
And then they were just like, they talked about it, and they were just like, yeah, he'd be a great addition.
Yeah.
We also kind of have like a very similar style where it's kind of just like we were like rolling rolls, and we kind of all did our thing. So like our tactic was just to like go in the front and just ride super hard. We're just like, we're fit, let's be in the front.
Yeah.
But like, unbeknownst to me, that's not how you race a race. You chill and you reserve, and you're like smart about what you do.
Yeah, I think all the people who talk about the first day is like almost everybody starts like that. The people who are fit enough in the beginning right away who are like, oh, I'm feeling good, and then they like try to punch
it. Go for a flyer, and it's just like blown up.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like,
sometimes you gotta race like that, but that's how you learn too, right? I mean, if you never try, then you don't find out.
Exactly. It's like, oh, let me try my breakaway skill. Let me see how hard I can like ride this pace, like away from the field kind of thing. And then slowly but surely, like I just started racing more and more, and like I got my upgrade from 5 to 4. Like I did pretty well in like a few of the CRCA races. I remember losing my first race. Like I was gonna win. It was like a cat's paw finish. Oh, no, it wasn't cat's paw finish. It was the Cleopatra's Needle, like the Met finish.
Yeah.
Right after.
So like right after we like a couple of little dips over, you have to go over after that. Yeah, I like that one. Yeah. We only do like once a year too, but yeah. Anyway.
And I was just like, I ride cat's paw like super hard. I'm like, these cat fives don't got shit on me. And I remember like I kind of like waited for a bit, and I like started sprinting, and I like eased up like right at the top. And then Brent, or I think his name is or Brent or Brooks, who raced for Dave Jordan. That's his name, Brooks.
Okay. Yeah.
He like came around and passed me, and I had to like settle for a second, and I was so pissed because like in my head I'm like, yo, I got this race, I'm gonna win, and I like let off the gas at the final second. He just like comes straight around. I was like, I pretty much led this guy out. Like he literally just sprinted off my wheel, and it was just like it was a funny mistake. Yeah. And then slowly but surely, I got my upgrade from 4.
Would that have been your first race win?
What was that?
Would that have been your first race win, or was it like your first race win? Or did you won a race before that?
I didn't win a race. I remember, and I had won a race in the Alley Cat seat, but never like an official sanctioned race.
Right.
So like it was like snapped from like right under it.
Yeah. I was gonna say that's a real bummer.
But my introduction from 4 to 3 was probably like another one of my like life-changing like best moments, because it was the Orchard Beach crit, and it was like in the pouring rain. And just some backstory to this. I was in Portland.
When it's Orchard, you know it's raining. So anyway.
I was in Portland prior, like not too long before this. And when I went to Portland, I was like, I'm gonna go out there because my girlfriend at the time was living out there. I was like, I'm gonna go ride. I'm gonna get some training in. I'm gonna come back like super fit, and it's just gonna be awesome. Like I'm gonna get off the plane. I'm gonna have like 2 days, just chill, and then I'm just gonna go to the race. So the first day I got to Portland, I checked my bike in the airport, and TSA had destroyed my bike. Like it was, and it was a brand new tarmac, carbon. I had like just saved up for it, and I was crushed.
Yeah, that's rough.
And sure enough, I like was super like straightforward with the people in the airline. I was like, this is a brand new bike. I was like, I have the receipt from like 2 weeks ago when I bought it. I was just like, there was nothing wrong with this when I put it in the case. I even wrote a note. So I was just like, when you're being like, I wrapped it in towels and everything, but it was my fault because I put it in a soft case.
What was it, bike specific soft case or?
Yeah, it was a bike specific soft case. It was a SoHo one, and I got it like it was like hand me down. So it's like it was whatever.
Supposed to work. Huh? Yeah.
Exactly. And then sure enough, they gave me a check for like the maximum amount they could give me. That was enough to like pretty much rebuild the bike. So I was like out in Portland, not riding, just like kind of like trying to rebuild my bike. And I like sent the part, like I found the same exact frame on like the pros closet that was brand new. So I had that like sent back over to like New York to my bike shop to have it built. And I like sent the parts. Okay. Because the airline had to keep the frame. They were just like, if we're gonna give you the money, we have to keep the frame.
You need the,
So I had to like go to a bike shop, get all the parts, and some of the parts were like broken, like the shifter and derailleur and the brakes. So I sent like some of the stuff back. I had to buy a few other stuff. Long story short was I get back a day before Orchard Beach crit, and I'm like so like scared because it's like pouring rain, it's cold, and I signed up for 2 races. I think I signed up for like
you can always sign up for 2 usually. Most people can 3, 4, and 3 or something, or just whatever. You were just upgraded to 3, or you?
It was my last race. I was telling myself I was gonna win. I was gonna win Orchard. And sure enough, I was a 5. I was a 4 still. Right. And so I did the 4, 5, and the 4. And the 4, 5, I missed the break, and then I had to like settle for 4th. And I'm like sitting in the car with my dad, and I'm like, do I even want to race the second one? Like, I'm just like, I'm so tired, but I was like, I need the upgrade points. I was like, you just have to do it. And sure enough, like I was kind of like playing the field, and Chris Alchek took a flyer. Like there was a few like flyers from people, but nothing like stuck. And then Chris Alchek went, and I was like, that's the wheel. And like I sprinted as hard as I could. I got on his wheel, and as soon as I got on his wheel, he flicked me. And I looked at him, and I was just like, bro, if you want this to work, I was just like, just pull for like another minute, and we could make this work. And we ended up almost like lapping the field. Him and I were just like taking turns, just like on the front. And I told him, I was like so cracked from like racing in the previous race. I was like, listen, man, I was just like, I don't even need to win this race. I was like, you can have it. You can have it. I was like, you did the work.
Let's work together.
Let's work together.
Yeah, that's the right call.
And and I podiumed that race. I got second, and I remember like Bob was there because he was like marshalling for somebody like on our team because he was like a sweetheart. He was like, I'll do the marshalling duty for you, just go out and race.
That's awesome,
and like I was like crying like him and my dad because I was like, I didn't have a bike like 2 weeks ago, and then like I had this bike built. I didn't really get the dial in the fit.
Second race of the day, you got to work super hard for it too. It's not like one of those where you sit in the whole time and then come out for the sprint.
I was really working for it. Like I cried in front of my dad, and that was like a really like big experience. I was like, this is awesome. Like I had like all the support from like all like the local racers. They were like, yo, good race. Like I see you out here. Like this is awesome. And that was just one of like probably like my best moments like in cycling. It was like you get to win, or not win, but like you podium in front of your dad, and it's just like, not that my parents like totally like into like my swearing, but they know I go out and like ride at like odd times at 5 o'clock, and it's just like, well, this is what I go out and do. Like I go out and train so I can go out and do this, and it was so nice for it to kind of like come full circle.
Yeah.
And then when I got to 3, I kind of just was just like, I need to race with the big boys. Like I need to be up in front. Like I want to be on your level. I want to be racing with like Constantine. I want to be racing with like Mike Marguerite. Like those like the big dogs that I need to be with. And I was always just trying to like prove myself or just like kind of like make myself known.
You weren't gonna be like, hey, I'm gonna sit in and check this out for 10 races.
No, I was just like, I'm just gonna give it my all and just try and just like win, or not even win, like just contend.
Yeah,
you
but
know?
contend and try. Yeah. Totally. So. And I think those are the moments, right? I mean, when you feel like that and you get second, or like I think some of the races I remember best, or that I really feel like have super good memories about, or just felt like that was an awesome performance, or second place or third place sometimes. You know, just like it doesn't matter if you win. It's about like how you did it and like and you know what it means to you. So you've been at 3 for a little bit. I was just talking about before. I think you had good results. I mean, Central Park, like the sprints at Cats Hall was kind of a crapshoot anyway. Like, you know, I think you've had some good results. You're like you just said, you're being seen. You're making yourself visible. You're trying. I think you're riding aggressively. I also, again, always smiling or positive personality. I think you are. I mean, again, I think this is the first time we talk in depth, but I always like social media and always I see you like you seem very open and like people are connecting. You're connecting, and I think through your stories you can tell like you've connected with like you've thrown out all these names and there's like these are all mostly young racers in the field that are also newer, and like it's this kind of cohort that you're growing up with, right? That feeling, and you make it to the Cat 3, and then that means in CRCA you can race the A field, and then you're like, and then with the big boys, and then you feel like you've graduated to. It's almost like you graduated college or something like that. You know, you're in the real life, and has it been what you made it out to be when you were not in the A field, or how has that when you were not racing 1, 2, 3 in Prospect Park, like because not the 1, 2, 3 in Prospect Park outside of CRC you can race now. A lot of these elite fields too. Like, how does that feel? Has it been a big change? Has it been a big step for you, or what have you noticed? Do you feel different?
It's been great, honestly. I mean, there wasn't a lot of racing like 2020, like just because of COVID. Right. But and I feel like that was my season to really like shine. Like, I put in like a lot of like hard work.
That's what I mean. I think you had 1 or 2 good results at the beginning there. Then I was like, oh yeah, Vince's. I don't know if you stepped a little up. It's too early to tell, but like, yeah, he's looking good.
Yeah, I mean, I was like really super fit. I was like going out, like I was just doing like tempo to like state line, like just like endurance kind of stuff, you know, just like the mark where I was like going out, just like turning myself inside out almost.
Yeah.
Just so race day, I could just feel a little bit more comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it was just awesome just to be like up there, like, you know, like on the start line. It's just like, you know, you got to get to the race early so you can line up and get a good start position. It's like, I'm part of GF Capital, not to say we're like a huge team. We're one of the smaller teams. Like we don't have like a huge like foundation or like good guys. Where it's just like every race you have like 7+ guys, you know, coming out, and it's just like that really makes a difference. You have to think and
race differently, for sure.
Precisely, because it's like you don't have a whole team, so it's like you have to be really.
If you spend a bit of energy, you need to spend wisely. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. And just kind of like learning that, like, you know, I was just like, I just need to make sure I'm in the front, not always like directly in the front, but at least kind of like top 10. So if a move goes, I can kind of just try and like see like, is this where I need to be at, or it's like, are these the people? And it's just like as you start racing, it's kind of like, you know, like the big names. So it's like when you see certain people go, it's just like that has the potential to stick. Like, oh, Mike Marguerite's in the break, like he's gonna be driving that pace, like.
Yeah, and he still wins plenty of times, but Mike Marguerite goes, everybody goes. Is how it goes. It's in other places it's like, oh, there's the pro or former pro rider, so everybody jumps with that wheel. And certain riders.
It's a smart, safe way to ride. It's just like, like, you know, like if you follow that wheel, like, you know, you'll like nothing really bad will happen.
Probably not. No. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, honestly, it's been great. Like, you know, and also just like having more people to race with. When I first started, like again, like I had like the 3 people, like Justin, Harry, and Taylor. Mm-hmm. I mean, not Taylor and Brett
on GF Capital.
On GF Capital. Yeah. But we kind of like all kind of like progressed like at like our own kind of pace. Like Brett got his upgrade to 3 first, and he was in the big field, and he was like bragging to us, like, yeah, being in like riding with those guys is no joke. And I'm like, damn, like I need to be up there, kind of thing. And these are also people that I was like riding with as a 4, and I'm like, damn, they already got their upgrade to 3. Like I'm just like, what am I doing? Like I'm slacking. And then pretty much I kind of just like got into it more so through that.
I'll take the check. Yep, thank you.
But yeah, the A-field experience has definitely been great. Just being able to like rub shoulders and stuff like that with like, some of the big hitters. I mean, when I went to GMSR, I got completely like shelled.
Yeah, so Green Mountain Stage Race, which is like Labor Day weekend in up in Vermont, and it's like is it too big to say it's the biggest stage race on certainly the Northeast, I would say. Anyway, 4 days, hard, couple of at least one climbing stage, a hilly time trial, a crit, like a little bit of everything. I'll put in the show notes, but I haven't done it yet, and I don't know if I ever will do it after Cat 1. I'm gonna have to wait until I'm 40.
Yeah, do the Masters.
But so you went out there. This is Labor Day weekend, and at the end of the year, I'm always totally fried too at the end there. But you were ready for that, or you wanted to do it.
I was like super like excited. I was like, this is like the biggest stage race. Like a few of my teammates who did like a lot of like the stage races before. They did Killington and like Chokaniki, like some of those climbing races.
Yeah, so Killington again. I'll explain for people, but in Vermont, another stage race in May, and then Chokaniki is kind of also haven't done that yet. Hilly. One day in Connecticut. Yeah.
And I was like, this is gonna be an awesome experience. So Bob had like rented out a house for us. Yeah. And it was like the people that were going, we were all like super like familial and kind of like communal. Yeah. Like Bob like cooked us breakfast. Yeah. And like was like at the feeds like handing us like our stuff.
Which you need really, yeah, because definitely. The race distances there are long.
70 miles.
You can't do that. I mean, you could do it unsupported, but you would be pretty parched at the end of that.
Definitely. And I remember like the time trial, like I like splurged on that because like I just started using a Wahoo. I had like used a Garmin watch prior to that. Yeah. And I thought it was like, I think it was like the last, like they put up a banner where it's like, I think like 5K to go, like that big banner towards the end. And I was passing somebody, and sure enough, as I passed the banner, like I paused my Wahoo because I was like, the race is over. And then I see the guy still going. And I'm like, oh fuck! Like I still gotta go, and I like lost like 15 seconds. And so like I started like off the back, like in terms of just like my placing. Yeah. So like the second day, the road race, like I worked like super hard. I think for like 3 hours of racing, I think I averaged like 230 something watts, was like my average power. And I mean like, this is Cat 3 field, which is nothing crazy, but it's just like.
And you're not the biggest guy
in terms of my size. Yeah. And I looked at Alan Carr. It's funny because he did the one race, and our numbers were like almost like similar. And I sent it to him, and I was like, LOL. But it just goes to show you that I didn't know what I was doing because I was out in the front, just riding super hard.
And for Alan, who was like my height, skinnier, and just an absolute beast too. He's a fast guy. And yeah, for you to do the same numbers.
Yeah, I was just like, wow. I was like, LOL. I was like, looks like we both had a big day. He was like, LOL, yeah. But I was totally like cracked after that road race, and then come the Queen stage, which finished on the mountaintop with a super steep finish. Yeah. I was able to stay with the main group pretty much the whole entire race. I got dropped like right past the final climb, and I was like in no man's land. Yeah. Like I got off my bike, I had to walk. Even walking up that gradient was like tough.
It's tough. I mean, and like you said, like you already have a hard day in your legs, and you have the next day in your legs. And again, like it's amateur, so you still, even though you have support, you probably didn't have enough water and probably didn't have enough to feed. And I've only seen that climb on like elevation profiles. I've never done it myself, but I know it's tough. So yeah.
Oh my! There's this picture of me like hunched over my bike, and I'm like sitting down, and like the paramedics like, "Do you need help?" Because I was like so gassed, and I was like, "Nah, I'm fine. Like I just need to catch my breath." And then sure enough, like I got like wrecked in the crit like the next day because it was like in the rain. And I was like, I don't want to crash my bike after like I don't even have a result to show for it, and then I kind of like lost the pack and they got pulled. Yeah. But all in all, like no result to show for it, but like a lot of people didn't even show up the last day, so like their result just got kicked, and like a lot of people that were like placed high up kind of got like their lower placing. Yeah. So that was chill, but for the most part, I feel like overall it was a great experience. Like it was just like it really opened my eyes to like what bicycling and like road racing really is. You know. Like,
was that the first time kind of riding outside the city, or was it?
I mean, as opposed to like regular like 9W, like you know, like
right. I mean, racing outside the city, or like.
Oh yeah. The only other race I did outside the city, I think, was the Philly Flyer, and I did decent in that.
Which was a really fun race too, but that's a big step going to GMSR, Green Mountain Stage Race. Like when you're mostly racing in the park and all that, and then you're all of a sudden going and doing these big road stages, and that's a big step up.
Yeah, it was for sure. And I mean,
which is why I'm not going. I mean, partially, but yeah.
And I feel like honestly, like a lot of New York races are like in their own bubble. Because it's just like, oh, like New York races are also like, don't get me wrong, like super duper strong, but also like a New York Cat 3 is also like a very a great New York Cat 3 will also probably be like a decent like Cat 3 like anywhere else like in the country.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that. But I think you're right that there's a bubble, and we are very good at racing the courses that we are, but you kind of get comfortable with that, you know, and then you don't challenge yourself to do a course that's a real crit or something that's thank you, or a stage race, right, or a climbing race if that's something you might be good at, but you don't know because you always just race in the park, and that's so I think it's important to get out of the comfort zone. I think it's awesome that you did that. I don't know if you have plans for well, you can't really plan for 2021 yet, but plans for the future, do more of that, I'm assuming.
Oh, definitely, 100%. Like after I did GMSR, I was like, I'm coming back next year because I need to redeem myself. I was just like, I finished the Queen stage like off my bike, like I had to walk the hill, and I was just like.
But you finished. I finished the next day too. So
I did. But I mean, like, part of me was just like, I need to go back and like something I need to prove to myself. So like, I was like, last year was gonna be the year, and I was like, and it was like it was kind of up in the air because like COVID happened. But then bike racers were just like, well, you know, we still want to put on this event if it's like safe, and then people they couldn't get the sponsors and so on and so forth, so it just didn't happen. I've definitely been training super hard like last year, 2020. 2021's already off to a great start. I think I'm at like 1,300 miles already. And yeah, I'm just super ready for racing to resume hopefully like in like the late like spring. And I feel like definitely with the availability of like the vaccine and more like adaptions to like rapid testing, like I definitely feel that like if race organizers maybe like have like rapid tests, you need to produce like a COVID test, negative COVID test like prior to like going to the race or something like that. I definitely think that racing will happen this year, and I want to be a part of that.
I think so. You know, there's a lot of people feel very strongly one way or the other, so it's kind of opening a can of worms right now. I feel like I just saw that, you know, Tour of Somerville, which is like, I think the oldest crit or one of the oldest still existing, continuously running whatever this race is in the US, and they just moved their date from the usual Memorial Day to Labor Day because they want to have crowds out there, not just kind of a sterile kind of just the racers kind of there.
Right.
There's already people like, what safety protocols are you gonna have in place? I'm like, give them a break. Like these poor organizers, like they're also suffering here. Like, you know, they're working hard here, and they just moved it to Labor Day, so they don't need to. We'll figure out in the September if it's going to happen.
Right.
I'm fairly is very strong, but somewhat optimistic too. And I think, you know, CSC just came out with a survey too. I don't know if you saw that. Asking people what they feel comfortable with, and I think it's problematic. Now we're talking COVID. I think the first time. So, but okay, we're talking COVID. I think it's problematic when you have to. I don't think we can require people to have the vaccine to race.
Yeah, no, but
ethically, because but at the same time, we also do want people to feel safe. So it's tricky. I mean, you know. Anyway, what do you think?
I was just saying, I feel like a lot of people are like readily like, okay, the vaccine is here. I want to get the vaccine because it will diminish the possibility of me getting like and I won't get like severely sick from it. So I feel like it definitely should be a requirement because everybody has like a different like idiosyncrasies as to whether they want to take a vaccine or not. But I definitely think that it's more out there, that more people will be more like interested in like it'll just get the conversation going. And I also feel that like if you have like rapid tests and stuff like that, or if you get if you get like a negative COVID test like a week prior and then they have like a rapid test, I feel like a lot more of those procedures would kind of be a thing. And again, we're bike racers. I would say a majority of us are fairly healthy people.
I think so, but
and not to say that like again everybody has like their whole thing about science, like whether you can contract it or not. And I'm not even here to debate that. Again, I just want to say that like on record, living your life is just a risk in itself. Like me coming and riding my bike here is a risk.
Everything's a risk. I mean, whatever you're going to do with COVID, it's always risk management. You're never going to 100% protection, right? So it's the question is, what are you comfortable with? Exactly, and where do we kind of find a consensus that a good enough portion is comfortable with that, and it's probably safe enough for most people that we can race, or we can of course go super conservative and say no bike racing 2021. We'll wait until everybody's vaccinated. You know, so that's a question. But meanwhile, there's bike racing already going on in Florida, which is I think sanctioned by USAC. You know, and not saying that that's what we should be doing, but there's conversations you have. You need to think about that. You gotta. I have a hard time saying one hardcore way or the other hardcore way. I don't think we should open it up right now.
Right.
I don't think we need to just like be questioning everything all the time now. be asking people about their, like, if you super consider the other way, then you're not gonna have any bike racing anymore at all. Like you said, I mean, there's always a risk doing
Exactly.
something, you know. There was a flu risk in the flu last year, probably the year before too, racing CSA, because there's people who might be sick on race too. So
Right.
now we are finally talking COVID. That wasn't even on the menu for us here. Thank you. Let me go back, and you can still add something if you wanted to COVID or something else. But I want to make sure that we covered all the.
I think the next question is about my cycling future and like where I am.
You have paid attention to that. Yes, we were still getting onto the future, and that's why we got into the whole COVID thing. So, COVID. I'm assuming we'll get a few races at some point, maybe September, maybe June, maybe already in March and April. It doesn't matter. Or what are some goals? Or even going beyond, if there is a full season, what are some of those bucket list items, if you have any, or what do you?
I would say like non-specific goals. Just honestly, just like creating more memories and stuff like that with like my friends. Like my good friend Kevin, who's on my team, we did a trip out to. It was for men's mental health. And he basically messaged me. He's like, "Hey, I'm doing this trip, and I want you to come with me. Like, I don't want to do it myself." And we rode from Salt Lake City to Moab in 3 days.
Oh, wow.
And pretty much, I'm sponsored by them too, but we're both ambassadors for Black Sheep Cycling.
Okay.
And basically do like a man ride every year. And we were able to kind of like, and then basically like raises like, it's supposed to be like kind of like a race to stigma around like men's mental health and stuff like that. Like everybody deals with it. Like it's a problem that everybody deals with it. And pretty much, my goals were just pretty much just ride more and just get in more quality time with friends. Like I just went to Austin like a few weeks ago, back in like early January. I did like a photo shoot for Black Sheep down there. And I got some awesome riding, connected with a few like the guys down there. And then I just want to do that trip to Moab again. Like that's like something I want to kind of continue doing with him each year. And then
you rode like every day, kind of.
It was 3 days.
Support or something
It was 3 days, and then we just camped each night. And then one of our buddies was driving, so he would like have like our camping gear.
Okay, so
it was kind of supportive, but not really.
Yeah, but that's pretty good. So 3 long days of riding. And
like our first day was like
it's a different scenery out there. Yeah.
Oh my God, it was beautiful. I recommend everybody go to Utah, whether it's biking or not, just once in your life. Like national parks for hiking, just it's amazing. I just want to kind of just be able to just like put myself out there more. I know like COVID, like everybody's just kind of apprehensive about being out there, but just building more connections and just like just meeting more people and just like having more like fun adventures with friends. Yeah, kind of is where I'm at right now.
No, I think we can tell that. I mean, you're the way you approach it, and I think the memories that you've shared already here, that's awesome. I think that's what we're in it too, right? It's not just for winning or your FTP or whatever people are get obsessed with. I think it's about making connections, meeting other nice people that maybe you wouldn't meet otherwise, because the bike kind of can connect them that way, right? You meet people who are, I don't know, working for a hedge fund, and the person that is like a bike messenger, and they're all on the same team, kind of, you know. And then I think that can be really cool. And people who are on the older end of the age spectrum and the younger end, and I think, you know, obviously we tend to kind of gather in like age group a little bit, but I think it's super cool, and I think you can make a lot of connections there. So I think you're gonna make a lot of good memories. You got a target race? One that you were like, okay, if I can win one.
So honestly, I'll answer your question, but I feel like this is something I've more so realized now, is I've become like a Cat 3, and I have like goals. Like I want to be Cat 1. Like that's my goal. Like I want that pro license, Cat 1 license, whatever. But as a racer, you have to like pick your strengths. So it's just like, if you're a really good climber, like do those hilly races. Or if you're really good like on the flats and like you're really comfortable like riding in like sketchy situations, then do crits. And I feel like kind of just like finding like my balance and like what I was good at.
You're probably still finding that. Trying to find it.
Ish, yeah. I feel like I thought crits was it for me, but I definitely think that like more so like what I've been doing is like road racing. Just like I just need to be more smart about how I do what I do. Like don't get me wrong, like I won't get like dropped in a crit, but I probably won't be the one that's like off the front, like trying to like win. And so like I would say if any race I want to win, I would probably say like the Philly Flyer. Like I got
it's a fun race.
It's definitely
it's a good mix that gives a lot of different types of racers still, I think, a chance. Some climbing in there, but not too much.
Yeah, there's a few descents.
A little technical, but not too much.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So maybe Philly Flyer would be on that. I would definitely say I wouldn't really consider myself a crit racer, but I would definitely want to win Orchard Beach. And then now being a 3, doing it like in the 3s or the 2 3s, definitely be really hard. Because we just start getting all those stacked fields where it's just like riders like 7 guys, you know.
Yeah, it's always a little bit of a lottery, but you can do it.
If you're smart and you got the fitness, you can definitely do it. Nothing's impossible. Just gotta have the right mindset and just prepare for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would definitely say that's probably on my list is Philly Flyer. I don't think I'm ambitious enough to go for GMSR because
that's a very different race.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Philly Flyer is a hard race too, but
I'd say this: I don't want to win GMSR, but I want to be content with like a top 10. I think
in
I
the
can,
GC.
in the GC. I think I can pull that off.
We'll check back in here in mid-September.
Yeah, mid-September. See if
We'll have you
racing.
back in, and we'll see. Maybe with some of the other folks that race GMSR, and we'll do a GMSR special or something like that. So.
That'd be dope. That would be really dope.
Or I get my lazy ass up there, and get my butt kicked, and then get dropped in the first road stage, and then I can watch everybody. So we'll find out what we could do. I'm going through the questions here one more time. So we've talked about memories already, which is a big part of it, and I think you have a lot of good ones. And we've talked about the future as kind of a road racer. Are the other parts of it? Is the messenger, the fixed gear life, any of that? Not really a thing anymore. You kind of not moved on, but like it's not currently a thing. You're focusing on road riding, or is it what?
Yeah.
Where are you with other parts of it?
So don't get me wrong. Like since I started racing road, I've maybe done like 2 alley cats, but I mean they haven't been anything crazy. Like there was this one alley cat that I did, the Broadway Bomb, and it starts all the way uptown, like in like Riverdale, and it's basically straight down Broadway to the Wall Street Bull. I got taken out like badly one year on it. I had like a super like gnarly scar on my arm. And then the next year, like I was determined to win. And I got like 3rd place, and I was like, you know what? I podiumed.
Yeah,
I'm good.
that's good.
Like this is good. And I did like one other race. It was like mashed down 5th. It would start at like the beginning of 5th Ave down to like the Arc and like NYU.
Yeah.
I won that.
Nice.
And I mean, it was just a straight sprint. So I just literally just took off from the gun.
Yeah.
And that was about it. But racing alley cats is a lot of added risk, and I was just like, if I'm racing road, you know, I was just like, what's like priorities? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, am I racing for street cred, or am I racing like, you know, to get a Cat 1 license? So you can't get a Cat 1 license if you broke your legs, or you know, you're like, or you're in the hospital like handicapped because you did some like fixie race. And don't get me wrong, like I'm so thankful for that, 'cause that's where it like got me started. That's like kind of like that like competitive nature that kind of like instilled in me.
You learn a lot of skills there too.
Yeah, definitely. Like being able to like kind of like maneuver in like tight situations, you getting like cut off in cabs. It's like similar to like crit racing almost.
Totally.
But I kind of just like moved away from that because it's just too much of a risk for not a lot of reward, you know. And don't get me wrong, like people that still do it, like are like older, like OG messengers, like then they make a living off of it. Like that's just like who they are. Cause it's like how they set up the companies. Like I'm like 30 years old, but I'm still out there like giving these young guns like a run for their money kind of thing. But I just kind of like weighed my priorities, and like racing road bikes was a lot more like with like what I in line with like what I wanted to do. And also my mom like tenfold supported me a lot more like that, because she's like, this is like sanctioned stuff, like you're not doing like illegal shit out in the streets, you know. So there's been that.
Understandable.
Yeah, so that's
I think that's what a lot of people kind of go through that, and they live it again. They live it very intensely, and then you're like eventually you kind of priority shift. Maybe you find something else, and we're glad that you found road racing. I think a loss for maybe the fixed gear messenger community, but that's okay. I mean, you're having fun with it. I wish you a lot of fun with it in 2021.
Thank you.
Whatever races will be there, hopefully GMSR. Shout out to the promoters here.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. You'll be there. Maybe I'll be there. We'll see whatever is going on Labor Day, we can't even think of right now. But we're excited for it. I'll see you out there on the road.
Yeah.
And we'll have a lot more young folks like Vince on the show, hopefully, because we can feel the excitement, and we want to keep that excitement going.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, man.
See ya.
Awesome.